Hey everybody, so trying to figure out the Washington transmit problem, and so we're looking at the schematic of the output. Mine's been modified, and mine's been modified factory. Like this 47 ohm resistor that I drew in here, that was factory, because somebody isn't going to go through the time to do this. So and it's got this little piece of plastic tubing over it. This is a factory mod, that's for sure. There's some other changes as well. Okay, 205. This guy right here is supposed to be 1 ohm. That's 4.7 ohms. This one's here. This one is not present. This R204 is not present, and it was. You can look at the, when I was looking it over, I mean, it had never been soldered on. I mean, so it wasn't like some, golden hack pulled it out. This one's present. R179 is present. This one's not. This one's been changed to 4.7. So they've done some modification to the bias circuit here, which is suspect. So if they've done some modification of this, I'm wondering if they didn't change the 1307. See, it's not, my mod's not reflected in this particular copy of the Sam's PhotoFact, which is what this is. It's not here. So I must have a later revision radio or something before they went to the 8719. The serial number on this, in fact, is 29724. So it's a late production radio for sure. It's definitely a later production, because then they went to the 8719 PLLs in these, so it's a different board altogether. That said, so this is their this is not soldered on ever. This has never been soldered on. That's where some of these components are that are missing. It's never been touched. So, anyway, another thing that I saw interesting is this diode that's on the right here, that's on the back of the board. Why that is. There's a spot on the front of the board for it, but that leads me to another problem. Okay, and that is, let's go backwards. Okay, we have right here the upper and lower sideband 7.8 megahertz carrier oscillators. I don't see where the AM is done here. It may be done elsewhere, but needless to say, the 7.8 megahertz here at TP9, it's low when it's in AM. So something strange, maybe. Because this is all sideband, it may be getting 7.8 megahertz from somewhere else, but when I get into the mixer here, the 7.8 megahertz that's in here going into G1 is almost non-existent. There's almost nothing there. While my VCO that's coming in, this is the piece of coax here, the VCO is coming into it, it's real high. So, I guess it doesn't need a whole lot to mix, but when I injected my own 7.8 megahertz here at TP9 and just cut this loose, things seem to improve. However, original parts, 2C193, that's what's there. That doesn't look like anybody's ever changed it, and I've very seldom seen these things really fail. But as we go through the various stages of this radio, and just keep in mind these are overlapped a little bit, so doubling of power, doubling of power, doubling of power, doubling of power. It's definitely working. But why did they change the bias circuit here? Not here, because this is all how it's drawn. The 1306, this is how it's drawn. And this is how it is in the radio. But this one, they've changed things. We got rid of this. R204. 205's been raised in value. 180 is still there, same value. We got a 47 ohm down here. This 15 is there. Something tells me that the 1307 was omitted, and they probably did something else. Maybe it was a 1969. So my theory is, I'm just going to try to put a 1969 in there. Here's another thing. There's another little tidbit. Okay, we'll go back to the mixer for a minute. 7.8 megahertz in sideband here is real high. It's good. A lot higher than it is on AM. VCO coming in, 35 megahertz, good. And we pass all the way through. When we get down to the output on sideband, we're getting full power. But, it takes all of about 10 seconds to drop down to a watt peak. Now, if I measure the transistors, the outputs here, if I measure these outputs, the temperature of these things, after, 10 seconds on sideband, these things are 150 degrees. Just that quick. It's just nuts. So something's not right. And I have a feeling it has everything to do with whatever mods they did here. Because if they did this mod, who's to say they didn't change this transistor to something else? Late production radio. How do we know they didn't have a supply chain problem with 1307s? Because, well, those things started becoming unobtainium at some point. Maybe they could get 1969s cheaper. Maybe they could get 2312s cheaper. I don't think a 2312 was ever in this radio. I think the 2078's another option they could have used. Needless to say, I'm not entirely sure it's supposed to be a 1307, particularly since the bias has been altered, and that would explain why these things are getting stupendously hot. Okay, because this is trying to drive into this. This is tanking. That's going to cause this to tank. This is going to get hot. And you got these diodes here. This D52 and D51. That's these things strapped to the transistors here. These things are going to get hotter, and they're going to, conduct more, and they're going to pull this bias down. They're going to turn these transistors off. So, and that's kind of what I suspect is going on here. These things are getting hot. They're pulling that base voltage down to turn these transistors off. Because remember, we need to have enough voltage here, to turn these things on so that they conduct. This is pulling these things down, I suspect. So this gets hot, and it pulls them down, and then of course you lose output. So, anyways, I'm going to try changing this with a 1969 and, see what happens. If for some reason it works, well, then anybody who happens to have a Washington and they have a Sam's might be worth noting, in your manual. If that's the case, don't do it yet, but if that's the case, I'll follow up. If that's the case, the easiest thing to do would be to look to see if this thing is present. If this resistor is present, then you got to use one transistor. If it's not, use the other. That may be a simple way to tell. But nevertheless, I'm going to give it a shot, and I'm going to see what happens. So, catch you guys later.